Okay, so we're gonna get started. First of all, guys, thanks again for joining last week. Don't adjust your sets or your computers or whatever you're looking at. This is my real color today, okay? I'm a bright red from being out in the sun the last couple of days, and we were taking down the bubbles of the club, which was a lot of fun, but obviously sunscreen probably would have been the best hope at me not turning this bright red. So we're going to continue, but my movement will be a little bit slower today, but that's probably why, okay? Hey, Evan's here. How are you guys? So Evan and Aiden are watching. So we're going to take a picture. Billy, if you can zoom over here for a second. Mr. Carenza, how are you? Looking good, buddy. So today we're going to be we're just going to focus in on the picture here. My two buddies are watching today. It's Evan and Aiden, and this is dedicated to them, okay? Dad's gonna have to spend some money this week. He's gonna have to spend some money to make this for you guys at home this week. There's nothing wrong with box craft dinner, Brian, okay? But this is taking things to the next level. So Aiden and Evan have been watching since the first live episode, and today we're making a really awesome gourmet style mac and cheese. So really intense cheeses and produced pretty much in the same manner, but we're doing a sourdough crumb crust on top, and we'll get into that just in a second, okay? I want to remind everybody, so members and staff at the club, about the leftover food challenge that we initiated last week. So last Friday we talked about it. It started on Monday. It was about any staff member or a member of the Boulevard Club reaching in their fridge, and I'm sure you have a lot of leftovers like we do right now. So you're gonna wanna go in your fridge, create a dish. You're gonna take a picture of that dish. I've had a few people send in pictures in their recipes so far. Take a picture of the dish, name it, and it's using anything you have in your pantry, your fridge, your freezer is fine. You can produce an appetizer, main course, dessert, but that will get you $50 towards one of the either curbside deliveries or a takeout order from the club, okay? So I hope everybody's well. So we are making, like I said, today we're making Evan and Aiden's gourmet style mac and cheese. So we'll talk a little bit about the products that we're using, and we're gonna serve it with a spiced ketchup. Everybody loves ketchup with mac and cheese. This one we've changed a little bit. We've added a little bit of a twist to the ketchup recipe, okay? So why don't we talk a little bit about the initial stage of the mac and cheese. So we're using a noodle that is called a Scooby-Doo. Okay, so it's called a Scooby-Doo noodle. It's also called, sorry, I'm just having a little bit of a moment here. Cavatappi, sorry. It's a cavatappi pasta traditionally, but they also call it AKA Scooby-Doo, okay? So you can find them in the grocery store. Essentially an elbow noodle, but it has a little bit more of a twist. So it has a little bit more of a twist, and it has some ridges on the outside, and that just allows the pasta sauce to stick to the pasta. But why I really like using these for mac and cheese, you'll see when we add the cheese later on that it actually holds the cheese better. So everybody loves those mac and cheese that has that long stringy cheese at the end when you're eating it, and that's what we're hoping to produce today, okay? So the first step, what we're gonna be working on, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the cheeses we used and why. We're going to be producing, there's two methods to this dish. So we're going to be producing a cheese sauce essentially. In French we'd call it more of a Mornay sauce, but we'd be using one style of cheese or a couple of styles of cheese. But here I'm using 4 cheeses, okay? So on our YouTube channel there's a basic cream sauce recipe that we made last week. So you're going to want to take that basic cream sauce, produce it in advance, and then we're going to turn this basic cheese sauce into, basic cream sauce into a cheese sauce. A lot of what the cooking that we do in the industry in the kitchen is we're going to take a base or a mother sauce, and we're going to make derivatives of that to make fantastic alternate sauces, okay? So we produce the basic cream sauce in advance. For this particular cheese sauce, we're going to be using Fontina cheese, which is an Italian cow milk cheese, very creamy and rich. They're all semi-soft cheeses except for the Parmigiano Reggiano, okay? So we're using a Fontina cheese. We're also using a Havarti. We're using a Havarti cheese. we're also using a Emmental as well, okay? So Emmental, and then the Parmigiano Reggiano or Grana Padano is fine as well. Either or would be great. We're also, because I'm sure that Aiden and Evan don't like a lot of green things floating around in the sauce, so we're using very little chives, which is just going to impart a little bit of onion flavor. I'm going to use a little bit of stock, and I'll explain that when I'm making the cheese sauce. And then we're just going to season it up with salt and white pepper. Kosher salt I'm using, and white pepper as opposed to black pepper, because we don't like to see the black particles of pepper floating around in the sauce, okay? So we're going to start heading over to the stove in just a second. Again, when we talk about the recipes that we use, there are obvious things that you fall in love with, types of cheese that you prefer. By all means, it's okay to change these up. This is just my choice, because a lot of these have great string quality. So when I'm going to pull that cheese, like you think about a pizza, when you're eating the pizza, the stringy cheese at the end, that's what I'm looking for in this particular pasta, okay? This would be fine for a kid's meal, so my kids do enjoy this type of mac and cheese, as well as if you want to make it more gourmet, we've incorporated lobster meat into it, or crab meat. You can really change it up quite a bit, okay? So this is just a basic mac and cheese, but gourmet style, okay? So we're going to head over to the oven, and we're going to produce our cheese sauce first. So I'm going to show you how really simple this is. And Sam, I know you joined us a couple of minutes after, but yes, this is my real color. Okay, we were out on the tennis bubbles, taking down the bubbles for the last 2 days, and I didn't use sunscreen. So this is what I look like today, okay? So I'm just going to go medium to low heat first. And you're going to see in the recipe I called for 2 cups of chicken stock. The reason I do that is because before I start adding my cream, which is cold, I did make it this morning, but it's cooled down quite a bit. So if I'm taking that cream sauce prepared in advance out of the fridge, I always add a little bit of stock to the bottom of the pot. And what that's going to do is just going to prevent it from sticking. Because when you're taking this really thick liquid and you're adding it to the bottom of the pot, it can scorch quite easily. So this is just going to prevent a little bit of that from happening, okay? So right here, I'm just going to go cream sauce into the pot. And you see, I only added a little bit of stock, okay? This cream sauce is quite thick, but it's also at a good consistency that you could probably use it right out of the fridge, okay? Sometimes bechamel sauces and other mother sauces like that tend to be quite thick initially, but I like mine to be usable right out of the fridge, okay? And a lot of the sauce work that we do today is not quite as thick as it was years ago. A lot of our base sauces have thinned down considerably, even in terms of a brown sauce, and that it's not quite as thick. Okay, so medium to low heat. And this is how difficult that is. So now that stock I'm incorporating, but it's definitely lightened things up off the bottom of the pot here. Okay. This is how easy this is. I'm going to add these cheeses. You see I've cut them in smaller pieces, and that's just to allow them to melt faster rather than having a big piece of cheese. So I'm just going to incorporate these here. Okay. So those are your 3 varieties of semi-soft cheese we talked about. So again, the Fontina, the Havarti, and the Emmental. And I'm just going to start incorporating those. And we're going to incorporate our hard cheese, so that's our Parmigiano Reggiano. And all I'm going to do, medium to low heat, bring the temperature of this sauce up. That's going to melt those cheese pieces, and it's going to become homogeneous. It's going to be consistent right throughout. Then I'm going to season with a little bit of the kosher salt, a little bit of white pepper, and I'm going to add my chives at the very end, okay? I'm going to want this sauce to be, I'd say, room temperature. You don't want it to be too hot, and you'll understand why when we go to produce the mac and cheese. But I don't want it to be really cold, okay? So I want it to be just room temperature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this working. I'm going to turn it down quite a bit. And I'm just going to get my cameraman to watch it until we start to see that the cheese is coming together. And I'm going to go back to the other side, and we're going to start organizing for our mac and cheese, okay? So I'm just going to leave that on the side there for you to take care of, sir. But you can see, even now, you can see the strings of cheese, and that's because of the particular varieties of cheeses that we've chosen. Because I wanted to show you the final product, I do have one that we made this morning in the oven. I'm just bringing it to temp, and I'm starting to brown the crust that you'll see when we produce it, okay? So yeah, this isn't going to take long at all, Billy. Like we're pretty much there, okay?
All right.
So we're just going to take this out just so he doesn't burn himself. I'm just going to leave this on the side. Just please give it a stir. Important to have somebody watching it if you're not there watching it, because it can scorch quite easily, and that burn will permeate right through the sauce, and you don't want that, okay? So I'm going to turn this right down so he can manage it, and I'm going to start on the other side and show you some of the mac and cheese, okay? There you go. Ready to go. You can just follow me back over here, Billy.
Yep.
So we talked a little bit about the ingredients that we're going to need. Obviously, baked dish, you can use an aluminum foil pan if you have. We have a couple of these. I have a larger one in the oven, but this will do about half this recipe. The reason I never mentioned the volume of pasta, because this could change everything, right? The size of dish that you're using at home. So the dish that I have in the oven took a full bag of the cavatappi pasta, so which was about 900 grams, okay, or 2 pounds. This one will probably take a little bit less than that, probably about half, probably a pound and a half. But essentially it depended on your container. So you're going to base this recipe on what dish you're using at home, okay? So in terms of the cheese, so the other cheeses that I have here, and this is where you're going to get that stringy quality of the mac and cheese. So this is the pre-blanched cavatappi. So it's already pre-blanched. It is al dente, so I have not made it so that it's overcooked, because I'm going to be baking it in the oven again, and I want to make sure that at least the consistency of the mac and cheese, you don't want there to be hard bites of pasta, but you do still want it to not be overcooked, okay? But the idea is that we're going to incorporate all these ingredients together, and then we're going to bake it in the oven, okay? So all I've done, and again, another video on the YouTube channel on how to properly cook pasta, is we've taken the pasta, boiling salted water, a good amount of salinity, so the salinity of the ocean, we say. If the requirements on the bag say 8 minutes, I would say cook them for about 5 to 6 minutes. Take them out, toss them in a good olive oil, put them on a sheet pan, and allow them to cool, and then transfer to whatever container you're going to use, okay? How's that sauce taste, Billy?
Good.
Okay, so my sous chef is tasting the sauce. So other cheeses that we're using in this recipe. So the big change here is that, yes, I still have Swiss, I still have Havarti, I don't have any Parmesan in here, although it would be fine, but I've added white cheddar, and a good white cheddar, okay? So I've added a Balderson, I think it was a 3-year-old. I want that sharpness of the cheddar. I didn't want to necessarily use that great cheddar in the sauce, because I thought it would be lost a little bit, like adding really expensive cheddar to a base sauce. But in here, I think you'll feel a little bit more of the cheddar when you're taking bites of pasta. So all we're going to do, we shredded all these cheeses earlier, and there's about 8 ounces of each. You can add more or less depending on what you're looking for. And I'm going to add this into the cold cavatappi, okay? So the reason I don't want this to be hot is because the minute I mix this cheese in, it would melt. So I want this to be able to go right through all the noodles first, and then I'm going to add the room temperature pasta sauce to it, okay? Aiden, any questions? Is Dad following? Evan, is Dad paying attention? He's going to have to make this for you guys. I'll just get rid of this bowl. Okay, so I'm just going to again continue just mixing this cheese product, all the different cheeses right through the cavatappi, okay? And you want a good amount of cheese, of the shredded cheese as well. It's not only the sauce that's going to make this flavorful, it's this cheese is really going to make the difference, okay? That's it. And you can prepare this in advance. So you can have all this stuff ready to go. You can make the mac and cheese the night before, take it out, leave it at room temperature for about 20 minutes. And then what you'll be doing is, yes, Dad's watching. After it sits at a room temperature for about 20 minutes, put it in the oven at 350, and you're gonna bake it for almost 40 minutes, okay? It's gonna take some time. I haven't put salt in anything yet, Evan. Nothing. Okay, so I'm in the good books today. But yeah, these two guys have been following along with their dad from the very beginning, and I appreciate the support, guys. I'm surprised you're not outside enjoying the sunshine. I'm actually wearing shorts today, no chef bands.
What sunshine?
What's that?
That's what sunshine.
So that's it, okay? So I'm just going to incorporate all that cheese right through. Billy's been paying attention to the sauce over there. I'm going to go over and take a look and see where we're at. I'm just going to put this macaroni and cheese to the side, and it's ready to go, okay? So let me just go get the sauce. Yeah, I think, so just show over here again, Billy, please. So you can see now, for the most part, the cheese has completely been incorporated. There's a couple of small pieces there, but it's not really that bad at all, okay? But it's all become one, so it's ready to add the final stages. So like every time we produce a recipe, we always look at making sure we taste for flavor, okay? When it's ready, you'll see that it coats the back of a spoon, okay? Just like that. So I'm gonna check it for flavor. This is where I might get in trouble, okay? I think it needs a little bit more salt. So just a little bit, okay? So a little bit more salt. Little bit more white pepper. And again, the reason we're using white pepper versus black pepper is, one, black pepper is a little bit more complex. I don't really want to change the flavor of the sauce here. I just want to enhance it or help it a little bit. White pepper tends to be has a little bit more heat, but it doesn't have the complexity. It's more subtle in complexity, but again, we don't want to see those black particles floating around in our sauce, okay? And I think it's great now. So the only thing left to do is add our chives. So our chives are going in there. And we're gonna pull that off the heat and let it cool just a little bit, okay? And we're gonna get rid of these at the same time. And just let that cool. I'm gonna show you in a minute the mac and cheese, because what we're gonna do at the very final stage is we're gonna take the lid off just so it has an opportunity to brown. And I'm gonna start doing that shortly, okay? So I'll take this over to the other side.
Evan asked, what's a good side dish for mac and cheese?
Good side dish? I mean, I'm gonna let you tell us what your favorite side dish would be with mac and cheese today. What would you eat with mac and cheese? Just mac and cheese? Would it just be mac and cheese? What do you think?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Because I hear a lot of confusion about this. Do you consider mac and cheese a main course or a side?
I think it could be whatever you want it to be. I'd consider it a main course.
Because I hear
What
a
do
lot
you think, Mr. Carranza? Would you say main course?
Oh, yes.
Oh, nutmeg?
Nutmeg.
Absolutely. So nutmeg I would use more in a traditional bechamel, not necessarily in this particular cream sauce. But you're absolutely right. If we were doing a traditional bechamel sauce, I would add a little bit more nutmeg. It's kind of like the old version when we talk about doing mashed potatoes. We used to add nutmeg to everything, right? For this particular dish, I didn't. But side dish, Evan, I would say, what about a good hot dog?
He says garlic bread with cheese on it.
Hey, that's a great idea. I think it's a great idea. Garlic bread and cheese, bang on. Good call. Hey, like I said, a lot of people, like at the club, absolutely, some of the kids enjoy it just as a main course. Adults love mac and cheese. I mean, we're making it really crazy now. Like, we're making it with lobster and all kinds of different things. Lobster mac and cheese is delicious. But maybe we change the cheeses up. Maybe we wouldn't use the same types of cheeses, right? It's completely up to you. That's the fun thing about cooking, I think, that everybody gets so caught up in. Oh, you have to follow the recipe. It has to exactly be like this. Don't change it. It's the really enjoyable part about cooking is being able to come up with new varieties and new complexities and changes of flavors and stuff like that, right? So don't think that every recipe is marked in stone. The whole fun of it is going out to the store and trying a new cheese. Maybe adding goat cheese. You never had a goat milk cheese before? Add it into a fantastic cheese sauce, or just crumbled on top of the pasta, whatever you like, right? Okay? So now the other part of the recipe that we're going to talk about is the crumble. Okay, so while this cools a little bit, I'm going to make the sourdough breadcrumb, the crumble for on top. And the reason I like to put a crust on top of the mac and cheese, we learn a lot about textures when we're cooking. Okay, so that not everything has to be soft right through. And mac and cheese is very soft. I mean, you might get some crunch of the caramelization of the cheese on top and stuff like that, but for the most part, the whole dish is one texture. So what we like to do in culinary world is we like to add some nuances of texture changes, and that really changes the dish for everybody, right? So a sourdough crumb crust for this, it might be, if you're doing a sweet potato dish, it might be a pecan praline. There could be all kinds of different things you do, but for this particular dish, I picked the sourdough. I wanted to keep it somewhat to the norm, not too far out of the norm, because everybody likes comfort dishes as well, and mac and cheese is definitely a comfort dish.
Sam says, yeah, side dish, sure, but kicking it up with protein is a main dish.
Absolutely. Do you like mac and cheese, Sam? I'm sure Sam likes mac and cheese.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
It's
exactly.
Cheese and pasta.
Exactly. So going into the crumb crust, I chose sourdough because I love the flavor of the bread itself, actually. I like the sourness quality of the fermenting dough and what it brings to this dish. All I did was take off the crust of the bread, because even in the machine it would have been a lot to work, but even chewing it might be a little bit too crunchy. So what I've done is just roughly chopped it in our Cuisinart at home, okay? Just our regular Robocoupe Cuisinart, we just chopped it up into not super fine. Like I wanted some nice pieces, like you can see some of them are a little bit larger, but definitely it's all the flesh, the interior of the bread, okay? So with that particular crumb crust, really simple. Parmigiano Reggiano or Grana Padano, whatever you have is fine. Okay. Again, that's going to add some sharpness to the crust. We talk about layering flavor, so everything we do, we make sure that we add flavor to it. So I'm not just going to put a breadcrumb with nothing in it. I want to add some different nuances of flavor. So the Parmesan is going to give me some salty and some really sharp contrast. I'm going to put in some Italian parsley. It does add a little bit of flavor, but mainly for visual. It does add some freshness, like grassy notes.
Sam says he loves mac and cheese.
He loves awesome. I'm just going to grab my salt here. So a little bit of salt. Here we go, a little bit of salt, Evan.
Oh, Vincey's here.
Hi, Vincey Nava. We're making your favorite mac and cheese, buddy. And here's where I'm going to use a little bit of that cracked pepper, okay? So a little bit of cracked black pepper. Is that enough, Evan? Enough cracked black pepper? I don't think so. Okay. Vincey, do you like my tone of red today? I'm moving very slow, buddy. Very slow. So that's our crumb crust. That's how difficult that was, okay? And then the last thing I'm going to make before we actually assemble our mac and cheese is I'm going to make the spiced tomato ketchup, okay? And I can absolutely taste the sourdough. If it needs a little bit more salt, and I'm not too worried about the salt at this point, but if it needs a little bit more, I can add it. That was for you, Evan. A little bit more salt. And then I'm just going to put this aside until we assemble, okay? I'm just going to move this to the side. Billy's going to follow me over to the oven because I'm going to take the top off our mac and cheese now. Underneath, I'm sure, has been bubbling away, but on top, the crust just needs a little bit more. It's going to need some browning, okay? So I'm just going to show you by removing the mac and cheese from the oven. I'll show you where we're at, and then we're going to go back and assemble that one so you know how to do it at home. Okay? So the mac and cheese, that was close. The mac and cheese I'm taking out, so you can see the size of this container. I'm just going to take this off. It's just started. You can see it's bubbling away underneath, so we know the mac and cheese is ready, but I want to brown that top, okay? So I can't do that with the lid on it. It's just going to add moisture. I'm going to add a little bit of crumb because it's soft. It's starting to brown around the edges, which is great. It's what I'm looking for, but I want that to be consistent throughout, okay? So I'm just going to put this back in. And that's going to take about 10 minutes. And by that time, we'll be ready, okay? So now the twist in the ketchup world. What we're going to do is, I'm just going to move this stuff aside. I mean, who doesn't love ketchup with mac and cheese, right? It kind of goes one and the same.
Sam says base 10, you got a layer.
Yes, Sam, I did get a layer, that's for sure. Okay, I'm just going to push this aside a little bit here, make some space, and we're good to go, okay? So, ketchup, really simple. Evan, do you take ketchup with your mac and cheese?
Evan asked what temp the oven's at.
350, sir. But very good question. Okay, so everybody likes ketchup with mac and cheese. And yes, the base of this recipe is ketchup. Exactly what we use to produce it, okay? So with this, where we've stepped it up a little bit, is we have some chipotle, which is a smoked jalapeno. We've added, so that was a tablespoon of chipotle, and you can step it up a little bit if you want it hotter. We've added a teaspoon of brown sugar. Okay, I'm going to add about the same of my cider vinegar. I'm going to add a little bit of minced garlic as well, just because I love garlic. Okay, a little tiny bit of cinnamon. Okay, cinnamon. And that's going to add some real, almost like a Mediterranean or Moroccan kind of instinct, right? And then the last thing is I'm going to do is I'm going to zest and juice this orange here, okay? Let me just move all this stuff out of the way. Okay. So I'm just gonna very finely zest this orange. So it's gonna add, like, I mean, when we talk about it in culinary world, it'd probably be more of a Moroccan kind of flavor, but it'll change it up. So if you're doing this wonderful dish at home, gourmet mac and cheese, why are you gonna pull the bottle of Heinz out of the fridge if you can change it up a little bit, right? So a little bit of the orange zest on the outside. You don't want to get too much of the white, the pith. You want that not to be there, okay? That should do it. Just gonna get all that beautiful stuff off the inside. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll this, just like that. I'm gonna use my knife, and the reason I'm rolling is just to get more of the juice out of it. I'm gonna cut the orange in half. And we're going to get a full orange juice, okay? So we're just going to get all the juice out of this orange. Actually, this looks like a great orange. Okay. Again, the same. So again, very Moroccan in influence here, okay? You need to get rid of that as well. Pour out some of that juice, no pit. Okay. And I'm just going to bring those ingredients together. I'm just going to get rid of everything I don't need here. And just bring all those ingredients together. Just whisk them together. And this is where I check for what, Evan? What does he think I'm checking for now?
Oh, Ryan says that's the game changer right there.
That is the game changer, absolutely. Okay. So, hi Ryan, how are you, Sensei? So a little bit of cracked pepper and some kosher salt, okay? Good to go. Okay, that's the game changer. And then I'm going to taste it, obviously. Have my spoons ready here. Just going to taste it and make sure the heat's good. Yeah, actually the orange is really nice. For me, you get the chipotle, but I want a little bit more. So I'm going to put 2 tablespoons. But the heat is there, but for me I like it a little bit spicier, okay? Okay, that's it. So our ketchup is ready. We're going to pull that to the side. And we're going to go back to our mac and cheese. I'm just going to have a look in the oven on the other side, and I'll be right back, guys. Okay, so now we're going to assemble. Now we're going to assemble that mac and cheese that we've already prepared everything for, okay? Just going to wash my spatula. And we'll get back to it, okay? Just checking my mac and cheese for color. Oh yeah, it's starting to look beautiful. So for the last 350 for about 30 to 40 minutes, and then the last 5 minutes, you can turn broil up a little bit because now all the breadcrumb is dried out. It's nice and got a nice crunch. And I'm just gonna brown it, okay? So right now at this point we talked about, we have all of our cavatappi pasta with the cheese incorporated. The full amount of your cheese sauce is going to go in now, okay? And we're just going to make sure with the spatula that we get all of the sauce out of the container. Ryan, do you like mac and cheese? I hope he does. I think Sensei likes mac and cheese. He sounds like a mac and cheese guy. You'd never know it. The guy's in such great shape. I look like I eat mac and cheese. Ryan doesn't look like he eats mac and cheese.
Evan says, what kind of drink goes with the dish from both a kid's perspective and an adult's perspective?
With an adult's perspective?
Kids,
you know
and
what?
adults.
Well, okay, from a kid's perspective, let me think here. I'm thinking as a kid now, okay? So actually, I'm going to ask my son, what do you think would go great with mac and cheese from a kid's perspective?
I'm not sure.
You know what? If you're into sparkling drinks and stuff like that, maybe a sparkling water. Like I'm into these bloody bubbly waters lately and they're delicious. So something like that if you want to feel a little bit more. But I mean, anything you like to drink can go great with it. Evan, but in terms of an adult, if I'm doing it with seafood, you could use a Pinot Grigio, or you could do a Chardonnay would be great with it, right? Something that cuts the fat, so something with some acidity would be great. But I mean, it's up to you, right? Completely up to you. But again, another great question, Evan. So the important thing that we talk about when we're preparing all these mac and cheeses, now my seasoning's pretty much done in advance. So I made sure that my pasta had great salt in the water. I made sure that the sauce I was making for the cheese sauce had great salt. And I made sure that my crust had good seasoning as well, okay? So that was important. Like I said, this will probably make 2 dishes, but I wanted to show you the proper method of making it, okay? So again, in the same method of what I did with the cream sauce, this is very heavy. So as it sits on the bottom of the dish and it's baking, it could scorch on the bottom. So what I always like to do is I will put a little bit of stock or water just on the base. And all that's going to do is as it bakes, it is going to just turn into sauce. As everything starts coating the bottom, we're just going to mix it through, but it's going to prevent a little bit of scorching on the bottom, okay? So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to move some of that macaroni that's all fully prepared over here. Okay.
Ryan says it's his absolute favorite.
Is it really? Okay, we'll have to make it and bring it to the club, Sensei. Ryan is an unbelievable martial artist. He's been at Milton Jiu-Jitsu teaching me there for years. And now I know he eats mac and cheese. Christmas is coming, Sensei. So you'll see now I'm almost there. So like I said, this will do about 2 dishes. Don't be afraid to get your hands in there, right? That's why I'm wearing gloves. Everything's good. Making sure that I mixed it right through. Billy, can you just pop the oven door there for me? I'm probably going to come over and take my mac out. Is it brown on top yet?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, not quite there. I think we're almost there. I'm going to come over now anyhow. So you're going to see now that I've topped all this mac and cheese up. Again, I still have about half a recipe or a third of a recipe left that I'll put in another dish. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that it's sitting within the container. I'm going to leave a little bit of room on top for the crust. And now I'm just going to sprinkle that crust all the way around, okay? Okay, and again, I'm probably going to use about half this crust right now because I'm going to have enough for another one, okay? Just like that. Okay, I'll put this aside. I am going to bake it for the first 40 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes, with the lid on. I'll be right back, just washing my hands. Okay, I'm going to take out my other mac and cheese and bring this one over to the oven. So Billy, if you want to follow me over to the oven here, I'm just going to make sure that this one goes in, that one comes out. Okay. So this one's ready to go in the oven, like we said, 350 for about half an hour, 40 minutes. Yeah, and this one's there. Okay. There you go. So that one's good to go. Okay. So I'm just going to transfer. Now would be the time when I'm going to put this one in the oven. Half an hour, 40 minutes, lid on. Last 10 minutes, lid off. Allow the crust to brown a little bit. This is absolutely perfect. I could leave it in for a couple more minutes if I wanted more of a brown crust, but for me it's there. But if you could hear it and see it, it's completely bubbling and the cheesy goodness is underneath, ready to go. And we're just gonna get ready to serve it, okay? But I'm gonna show you what this actually looks like underneath as well. Okay, so let me just bring this over. I'll put this one in the oven. Okay. And I'm just going to grab a spoon so you can see the inside. If you have smaller dishes at home that you would rather, you can do individual mac and cheeses rather than doing a big batch like this, but this was more of a family style recipe. But you'll see now, so obviously our spiced ketchup ready to go on the side, served in a small vessel, but in terms of the mac and cheese, and you can hear the crust, but just the mac and cheese itself is ready. Billy's been waiting for this since
the smell
morning.
that came out of that as you cut it.
So Billy's been waiting for this since morning, but it's completely oozing and stretchy cheeses and ready to go, okay guys? So thank you guys very much. Dedicated to Evan and Aiden this week. I hope you guys try the recipe at home and I hope you enjoy it. Join us next week, which will probably be our last live. The good news is we're probably going back to work. I will continue to produce some of the regular recipe videos, but the live might be shortened a little bit. But next week we're gonna make an amazing dish. We're gonna make Ontario lamb chops, so French rack chops with sweet potato galette and some seasonal vegetables, pan juice, pecan crust. Join us next